So, as always, we're back with part 2 of the World of Warcraft, what did I call it? The Prelude to Shadowlands, going through the story of Warcraft. Last week we did Warcraft 3 and the story of Arthas, Prince Arthas, who then became the Lich King, as well as Sylvanas, and this week we are going to do the World of Warcraft Wrath of the Lich King storyline of the Lich King, for the main event being the Wrath of the Lich King. Last week we covered Warcraft 3 Reforged, the story of Arthas and Sylvanas, and how Arthas, Prince of Lordaeron, became the Lich King. In this live stream, we're going to cover what happened after he became Lich King. And this follows up from the Wrath of the Lich King trailer we watched in the previous video. So if you haven't watched it, go watch it. It's highly worth it. It's going to make this more worthwhile. And this is probably going to play out what's been happening in Wrath of the Lich King from beginning to end. And it's highly worth it. So I hope you have your popcorn. I hope you have your drinks. Strap in. It's going to be good.
Before we begin, allow me to say, Wrath of the Lich King, for those who do not know, is the pinnacle of WoW's expansion. This is when WoW was at its best. 12 million subscribers.
100%. Now, by the way, this is going to be a the Noble video. He's basically a legend from the World of Warcraft community, and he is the official and unofficial lore master of Warcraft, and you'll see what I mean. The guy's a fucking legend.
He also explains.
Hello everyone! Last week we talked about the events of Warcraft 3, in which Arthas was turned to the dark side, and together with Kel'thuzad he summoned Archimonde into the world of Azeroth. It seems like all Arthas has done, all he had given up would be for nothing, yet the Lich King isn't done quite yet. He has no intention of forever staying loyal to Kil'jaeden and the Burning Legion, and plans are set in motion to sabotage the Legion and break out of his prison. Let's begin, shall we? The first step in the plan against the Burning Legion is to give the world the power and momentum they needed to stop Archimonde. For this, Arthas is told to go find Illidan and inform him about the Skull of Gul'dan.
We could go on fighting like this forever. What is it you truly want?
The Dreadlord who commands this undead army is called Tichondrius. He controls a powerful warlock artifact called the Skull of Gul'dan. It is responsible for corrupting these forests.
And you wish for me to steal it? Why?
Let's just say that I have no love for Tichondrius, and the Lord I serve would benefit from the Legion's downfall.
Why should I believe anything you say, little human?
My master sees all, Demon Hunter. He knows that you've sought power your whole life. Now it lies within your grasp. Seize it, and your enemies will be undone.
Remember that Gul'dan was Ner'zhul's apprentice. He even used the skull himself, and the power locked inside, it gave Illidan the boost he needed to take out the Dreadlord Tichondrius and stop the corruption of their forests. The next step was the world uniting against the Legion, so under Medivh's guidance, the Night Elves, Jaina and the survivors of Lordaeron, Thrall and his newly formed horde, they teamed up, they placed a trap for Archimonde, and they blew up the World Tree, sending him back to the Twisted Nether. Months later, Arthas returned home with some bad news for the Dreadlords.
It's been months since we last heard from Lord Archimonde. I grow tired of watching over these rotting undead. What are we still doing here?
We were charged with overseeing this land, Deathrok. It is our duty to remain here and ensure that the Scourge is ready for action.
True, though we should have received some kind of orders by now.
The Legion was defeated months ago. How could they not know?
Impossible to say, but the longer they remain in command, the more they run the Scourge into the ground.
What? Who could possibly...
Greetings, Dreadlords. I should thank you for looking after my kingdom during my absence. However, I won't be requiring your services any longer.
Prince Arthas, this land is ours. The Scourge belongs to the Legion.
Not anymore, Demon. Your masters have been defeated. The Legion is undone. Your deaths will complete the circle.
Never! This isn't over, human.
It seemed like things were going very well, yet not everything went according to plan. Pointing Illidan towards the skull of Gul'dan, it turned him into a great puppet to be used against the Legion, but Kil'jaeden found the Demon Hunter, and he promised him anything his heart desired if he would be able to destroy his treacherous creation. Illidan did his very best to destroy the Lich King and the Frozen Throne from a distance, yet he failed, which caused him to try and hide from Kil'jaeden's wrath in Outlands. Escaping someone like Kil'jaeden is not an easy task. He showed up and he was about to punish Illidan, but the allies he had made, Lady Vash and her Naga, Kil'thuz's Sunstrider and the now Blood Elves, formerly known as High Elves, they showed great promise, so he gave Illidan another chance. In the meantime, tossing out Frostmourne and possibly the damage done by Illidan's spell, it weakened the Lich King and his power was fading. Arthas was ordered to return to Northrend immediately, but his powers had weakened as well, to such a degree that the Banshee Sylvanas Windrunner, she was able to liberate herself from his control, she reclaimed her body, and together with the Dreadlords, they planned a bloody coup.
With my powers drained, I can barely command my own warriors. The Lich King warned me that if I didn't reach Northrend soon, all could be lost.
Fear not, my king. Everything is being prepared for your departure. The ships are waiting at the coast, and
There's been a change of plans, King Arthas. You're not going anywhere.
assassins! It's a trap!
In his moment of weakness, the Dreadlords took control of the forces that just moments ago were still loyal to the Death Knights.
There are too many of them, my king. Flee! Escape from the city! I'll find my own way out and meet you in the wilderness.
In the wilderness, abominations lumbered towards Arthas, but Sylvanas her Banshees, they quickly came to the rescue.
You have my thanks, ladies. But where is your mistress? Where is Sylvanas?
She sent us to find you, great king. We've come to escort you across the river. Once we cross it, we'll take refuge in the wilderness. This is the place, sisters. We'll rest here, great king.
Why here? We've got to find Kel'thuzad before we...
You have been deceived. Come to my side at once. Obey.
What is happening here? Sylvanas.
You walked right into this one, Arthas. It's time to even the scales.
Traitor! What have you done to me?
It's a special poisoned arrow I made just for you. The paralysis you're experiencing now is but a fraction of the agony you've caused me.
Finish me, then.
A quick death? Like the one you gave me? No. You're going to suffer as I did. Thanks to my arrow, you can't even run. Give my regards to Hell, you son of a bitch.
Back, you mindless ones! You shall not fall today, my king.
This isn't over, Arthas. I'll never stop hunting you.
Kel'thuzad saved Arthas' life, and as the Death Knight set sail to Northrend, Kel'thuzad was left behind to watch over the lands. Sylvanas teamed up with the Dreadlord Varimafras, and together they were able to get the capital city, and they worked on their plans of getting revenge. A city was of little concern to Arthas right now, since Illidan, Kil'thuz and Lady Vash, they were getting closer and closer to their Frozen Throne and the Lich King. To help Arthas get there in time, a new Barak was sent by the Lich King to guide him down into the ancient kingdom of Azul Narub. The labyrinth was treacherous, but together they made it through just in time.
We've made it, Anubarak. Our forces are already assembled and waiting.
Isn't it wonderful that last week we got to see everything how it was done in the remake Reforged, and now we get to see the original. So it's nice to compare.
Greetings, King Arthas. You've arrived just in time. Illidan's Naga and Blood Elf forces have taken up positions at the base of the glacier and...
Arthas, my champion. You have come at last. Now, we face a grave danger. My creator, the Demon Lord Kil'jaeden, sent his agent here to destroy me. If they should reach the frozen throne before you, all will be lost. The scourge will be undone. Now hurry. I will grant you all the power I can spare.
I saw another vision of the Lich King. He has restored my powers. I know now what I must do. It's time to end the game. Once and for all.
On the battlefield, Arthas met with Kel'thuzad Sunstrider, who had a burning desire for vengeance. Arthas had taken the woman he loved, had murdered his father, destroyed his kingdom. The prince had reforged his father's broken blade, fellow Malorn, and he did his very best to end the Death Knight's life. In their battle, Kel'thuzad and Arthas, they shot spells at each other, while Arthas tried to taunt the mage and break his concentration. "I took your woman," he said, continued to try to anger the mage, although he knew, and probably Kill knew, that Jaina had never belonged to the elf. "I held her in my arms at night. She tasted sweet when I kissed her, Kill. She
loathes you now. You sicken and disgust her, Arthas. Anything she felt for you has since turned to hatred."
Arthas tried to break and anger Kill, but instead it backfired and it made him wonder about the past, about how Jaina regarded him. This hesitation was all Kel'thuzad needed as he shot fireball after fireball until he finally drew his blade and he lunged in, thinking to deal the death blow. But Arthas remembered training with Muradin so long ago, and the dwarf's favorite trick suddenly filled his mind. He pulled his legs in tightly, he kicked Kel'thuzad with all his strength, he then gained the upper hand, was about to strike Kel'thuzad down, but the mage whispered,
"She hates you now,"
before teleporting away. The Blood Elf Prince was gone, and he thought that he bought Illidan enough time. Yet Arthas, despite feeling the aftermath of their fight, he pushed on, and he had to stop Illidan.
Like it was said last week, it's always about women, and this just ties back to it. Yup, it is!
Frozen throne is mine, demon. Step aside. Leave this world and never return. If you do, I'll be waiting.
"I have sworn to destroy it, Arthas. It must be done."
Never.
In their battle, Illidan bragged about how his twin Blades of Asenov had been with him for over 10,000 years. How long have you fought with your pretty blade, human? How well do you know it? The words were intended to unsettle the Death Knight, but instead they invigorated him. Illidan might have had this admittedly powerful weapon for longer, but Frostmourne was bound to Arthas, and he to it. It was not a sword as much as an extension of himself. He had known it when he first had the vision of it, when he had just arrived in Northrend. He had been certain of the connection when he laid his eyes upon it, waiting for him, and now he felt it surge in his hand, confirming their unity. The demon and the Death Knight, they clashed with each other, and Illidan came very close, but nothing would stand in Arthas' way. Frostmourne pierced the flesh, struck deep, and Illidan fell down into the snow. Arthas thought about ending Illidan right there, but he decided against it, and he decided to let the merciless cold of the place do it for him, as he finished his journey started so long ago.
Savage as fuck. There was a comment, why is it that women are the main cause of wars? And I say, because men are idiots who use their little brains instead of their big brains. And no, he couldn't feel anything because his soul was absorbed by Frostmourne, but he could still logically think about it. As you'll see, there's a lot more to the story.
He finally entered and reached the top of Icecrown.
There's a lot to the story. This is the OG one. Back in, what year was this? 1998? 97?
Forget this business. Lead your men home. You lost your mind, Arthas.
You lied to your men and betrayed the mercenaries who fought for you. What's happening to you, Arthas?
Some prince will find only death in the cold north.
As Frostmourne had been for him, so was the armor. Gauntlet fingers closed over the spiked helm, and he lifted slowly, reverently, and then, closing his eyes, he lowered it onto his white head. He was suddenly galvanized, his body tensing as he felt the essence of the Lich King enter him. It pierced his heart, stopped his breath, shivered along his veins, icy, powerful, crashing through him like a tidal wave. His eyes were closed, but he saw so much. All that Ner'zhul the Orc Shaman had known, all that he had seen, all that he had done. For a moment, Arthas feared he would be overwhelmed by it all, that in the end, the Lich King had tricked him into coming here, so that he could place his essence into a fresh new body. He braced himself for a battle for control, with his body as a prize, but there was no struggle, only a blending. A melding. All around him, the cavern continued to collapse. Arthas was only barely aware of it. His eyes darted rapidly back and forth beneath his closed lids. His lips moved. He spoke. They spoke.
Now, we are one.
This story, as you read the novel Arthas Rise of the Lich King, you find out that after this moment, Arthas spent his time contemplating the choices he had made, the road that led him to merge with the Lich King. He sees himself in a great hall together with the Orc Ner'zhul and a young sick child resembling that small part of him that was still good, that still whispered in the back of his mind that the path he was on was wrong, that he could still turn back. A choice had to be made. Slowly, the Death Knight turned his white head to the boy. The ill child met him with a gaze that was astonishingly clear, and for a moment Arthas felt something inside him stir. Despite everything, the boy would not die, and that meant... The boy smiled a little, and some of the sickness dissipated as Arthas struggled for words. You are me. You are both me, but you. His voice was soft, tinged with wonder and disbelief. You are the little flame that burns inside me still, that resists the ice. You are the last vestige of humanity, of compassion, of my ability to love, to grieve, to care. You are my love for Jaina, my love for my father, for all the things that made me what I once was. Somehow, Frostmourne didn't take it all. I tried to turn away from you, and I couldn't. I can't. The boy's sea-green eyes brightened, and he gave his other self a tremulous smile. His color improved, and before Arthas' eyes some of the pustules on the skin disappeared. You understand now. Despite all, Arthas, you have not abandoned me. Tears of hope stood in those eyes, and his voice, though stronger now than it has been, quivered with emotion. There must be a reason. Arthas, much harm have you done, but there's goodness in you yet. If there was none, I would not exist, not even in your dreams. He slipped off the chair and slowly walked toward the Death Knight. Arthas stood as he approached. For a moment they regarded each other, the child and the man he had become. The boy extended his arms as if he were a living, breathing child asking to be picked up and held by a loving father. It doesn't have to be too late, he said quietly. No, Arthas said quietly, staring rapidly at the boy. It doesn't. He touched the curve of the boy's cheek, slipped a hand beneath the small chin, and tilted up the shining face. He smiled into his own eyes. But it is. Frostmourne descended. The boy cried out, his shocked, betrayed anguish cry, that of the wind raging outside, and for a moment Arthas saw him standing there, the blade buried in his chest almost as big as he was, and he felt one final tremor of remorse as he met with his own eyes. Then the boy was gone. All that remained of him was the bitter keening of the wind scouring the tormented land. It felt marvelous. It was only with the boy's passing that Arthas truly realized how dreadful a burden this last struggling scrap of humanity had been. He felt light, powerful, purged, scoured clean, as Azeroth would soon be. All his weakness, his softness, everything that had ever made him hesitate or second guess himself, it was all gone now. There was only Arthas, Frostmourne, all but singing at having claimed the final piece of Arthas' soul, and the orc, whose skull face was split with triumphant laughter. Yes, the orc exhilarated, laughing almost manically. I knew you would make this choice. For so long you've wrestled with the last dregs of goodness, of humanity in you, but no longer. The boy held you back, and now you are free. He now got to his feet, his body still that of an old orc, but moving with the ease and fluidity of the young. We are one, Arthas. Together, we are the Lich King. No more Ner'zhul, no more Arthas, only this one glorious being. With my knowledge, we can... His eyes bulged as the sword impaled him. Arthas stepped forward, plunging the glittering, hungering Frostmourne ever deeper into the dream being that had once been Ner'zhul, then the Lich King, and was soon to be nothing. Nothing at all. He slipped his other arm around the body, pressing his lips so close to the green air that the gesture was almost intimate as the act of taking a life always was and always would be. No, Arthas whispered. No, no one tells me what to do. I've got everything I need from you. Now the power is mine and mine alone. Now there is only I. I am the Lich King, and I am ready. The Lich King woke up, and he sent his armies out to let the world know that he's ready for them. But that's a story we'll save for next week, since we also still need to talk about some of the events that took place between placing the crown on his head and waking up again. Like I said, that will be for next week, so for now, thank you very much for watching everyone. Subscribe if you like my videos, leave a like if you enjoyed this one, and until next time guys, see ya!
By the way, we ended last week watching the Wrath of the Lich King trailer. It's very powerful, but this gives the context of it. And of course, we're gonna watch it again. Cause why? It's fucking awesome.
My son, the day you were born, the very forests of Lordaeron whispered the name Arthas. Child, I watched with pride as you grew into a weapon of righteousness. Remember, our line has always ruled with wisdom and strength. And I know you will show restraint when exercising your great power. Victory, my son, is stirring the hearts of your people. I tell you this, for when my days have come to an end, you shall be king.
You're absolutely correct. Some villains are so complex to understand, if you can even call them villains. And that is the beauty. The best characters, and I'm not even calling them villains, are the ones that are relatable. The best way I could say it is that we grow up idolizing Batman, but the older we get, the more we actually relate to and understand the Joker. A bit like Arthas, you can take a look at all his actions and it's very easy to brand them as evil and you're the bad guy. But when you take a look at the context as to why he did certain things, they're understandable and at some times rational and probably the right thing to do. The Purge of Stratholme is one such example where had he not purged Stratholme, what would have happened to the entirety of the Eastern Kingdoms would have been 10 times worse because the plague would have spread even quicker. That was a very logical and rational decision, and he was branded a monster for it. But had he not done it, the outcome would have been 10 times worse.
Yep.
Without getting into spoiler territory, because we're going to watch it anyway, there are other actions that he takes, and same thing again. Is it evil? Does it make sense? From his point of view, how is it? Because like you saw, he pretty much killed and expunged the last of the humanity that remained within him. And like you mentioned, his love for Jaina, his love for his father. You also get to see his steed Invincible, which is a whole nother story, which we will probably not touch on in this video, but we will touch it another time. And trust me, it is a heartbreaking story. Once you get rid of the very essence of what makes you human,
I would recommend people read the story themselves.
Oh, I would highly recommend reading it, but if you don't, there's also videos for it. And that's what I love about Noble, because he takes these extracts, these highlights, and he knows exactly when to put them at the right time with the right context, and it's just magical. And he gives context to what's actually happening, which is absolutely why I love his videos. I used to binge them like crazy whenever I played Warcraft back in the day. I haven't watched his videos for a while, but they're amazing. Matt?
Hey, Kuma.
Yep.
Answer to two questions that you've had. You've asked, when did the game come out?
Was this 2008? Or are we talking about Warcraft 3?
August 3rd, 2002.
Wrath of Lich King.
Yeah, but I'm talking about Warcraft 3.
Oh, Warcraft 3, 2002, 2003. Wow, that's 17 years ago. Damn. That is a big bone dragon, and if you take a look at Game of Thrones, they kind of borrowed this scene in the last season.
I was about to say, if you look at Game of Thrones, they borrowed a lot from the Lich King.
Oh yeah, but it is one of the most renowned stories in recent history, so it's not surprising it's used as a source of inspiration.
Hey, Kuma, you have a guest on the camera.
Aw, hello. Where's Cheeky? Damn it, Cheeky's not here. So cute. Little Carly. By the way, is Vlad the Impaler a villain? In history, he was labeled as a hero. How does that work, or is that even possible? Well, if you take the look at the context of Vlad the Impaler, his father was the ruler of, Romania, and then the Sultan pretty much was demanding, not homage, but tribute. And the tributes that the Sultan was asking wasn't just gold and silver and precious materials, but it was young boys, because the Sultan would put young boys, and they were called janissaries. They were from a very young age raised to be in the Turkish army. They were fed blood to make them bloodthirsty, and they were also raped. And Vlad the Impaler, along with his brother, were actually janissaries. Vlad was older than his little brother. His little brother ended up accepting the ways of the Sultan, and he actually fought on behalf of the Sultan, whereas Vlad was a little bit older, and through years of abuse and rape and everything that comes with it, you have a lot of pent-up rage. And so when he went back to Romania, he wanted to liberate his people because he was the prince. And his way of doing it was starting a rebellion. And he took back Romania, and when the Sultan demanded tribute, and he sent a emissary. And the emissary refused to take off his I forget what the hat is called, but it's like a religious hat. He refused to take it off in the presence of Vlad. Vlad just basically looked at one of his guards and said, "Sure, you can keep it on. Nail it to his head." So they literally took nails and nailed it to his head and sent back the emissaries on horse. And then when the Sultan sent his army to Romania, to basically conquer, and we're talking about, this is the Ottoman Empire. Their army was 50 times bigger than any other army. And Vlad knew this.
Isn't that the story where he sent the army and then Vlad basically kills everybody in the army and impales them?
Well, they sent a small strike force, and Vlad won that skirmish. And what he actually did with the prisoners was he put them on pikes. So basically on the tallest hill were just all these pikes lined up with the soldiers still on them alive, screaming. And so when the Ottoman army came from a distance, all they could hear was the screams of the previous strike force. And you just had Vlad standing on that hill of screaming soldiers on pikes. What did the Ottoman army do? They just turned the fuck around and went home. So you could call him a bad guy.
Why would anyone keep going?
You could call him a bad guy, but you got to realize that the people in the Ottoman army were foot soldiers that were basically... They weren't fighting for themselves, they were fighting for the Sultan, right? And it was a form of psychological warfare. You could very easily brand it as evil, but it's war. It was either you win or your sons get raped and become soldiers, your women get raped to death, then you get killed. Or you kill them and make an example. You know what I mean? It's very easy to brand one side as evil, but you got to put it in context and you can discuss it. You could just as easily say what the Ottomans was doing was evil. You could just as easily say what the Greeks were doing in their heyday was evil. Alexander the Great, he was a fucking conqueror. Genghis Khan, fuck, he conquered. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, like... There's an old saying, history is written by the winners, not the losers. For example, in British, French, and Prussian, they always say Germany was the evil one in World War One. In reality, nobody was evil. Everybody was pretty much the same.
It's very easy to justify what you do to someone by branding them evil. It dehumanizes them. And by dehumanizing them, it pretty much justifies anything that you did. But at the same time, war is hell on both sides. And whoever thinks that a war has a winner clearly has never seen war. There's disease, there's famine, there's suffering, there's death, there's loss. There's no such thing as... no casualties. They label it as collateral damage, but what they mean is the amount of civilians that were crushed by a falling roof. If you haven't, seen kids that have been maimed and lost limbs and half of their face, like, trust me, war is fucking hell. I've seen it firsthand. I can tell you now, there's absolutely nothing beautiful or glorious about it. There is no winner in war. There's just loss on both sides. It's just a question of who loses more and who ultimately gives up or can't fight at the end of the day. There is no winner in war. As a species, the fact that we're fighting is proof that we can't call ourselves civilized.
No. I would like to also say, Vlad the Impaler is multiple-time Halloween decoration champion.
Yeah, he's the inspiration for Dracula. That story is actually funny. The whole blood drinking story, I'll tell you where it came from. So he would have breakfast on the hill where all those soldiers were on the pikes and dying. And at the time, you would drink wine and you would have freshly baked bread. And as you would, as any pet, and I say this myself because I did this growing up, you break off the bread and you use it to clean the plate because there's not a lot of food. And of course, he did the same with wine. Bread and wine, mwah, beautiful mix. And he used to dip the bread into the wine. And guess what the rumors were? That wasn't wine. That was the blood of the prisoners. And that started spreading. And of course, when people are regarding you as a vampire and the enemy fears that you're going to slaughter them and drink their blood, and they're scared to engage you in battle, What are you going to do? Say, no, I'm not this fearsome immortal vampire killing everyone. And the whole story of immortality actually came from an instance where he was struck over the head in battle. And he was knocked unconscious, and they thought he died. And they started building a coffin for him. And he was basically in a tent, and they were waiting to put him in the coffin. And he basically woke up, and he walked outside. And as soon as he walked outside, all his soldiers just basically got on their knees, put their swords down, which was basically a broadsword, so it looked like a cross. And they were praying to God, saying, oh my God, he rose from the dead. He didn't actually rise from the dead. He was just knocked unconscious, and they didn't realize that he still had a pulse. But of course, you've now got a rumor of this guy that's drinking people's blood, and if you kill him, he'll just rise up again, fighting against an army of God knows how many people. You think he's going to shut down those rumors? No, he's going to fan the flames. Why?
No,
because he can stand on top of a hill, and the Ottoman Empire is going to say, fuck this, I'm out.
Like, for example, to another person in history who also used his reputation to his advantage, Blackbeard. Edward Thatch teach.
Oh yeah, Blackbeard the pirate.
He would eat gunpowder. He would have these fuses that came out of his hat and that were lit, and it made it look like he was fire. He did it to make himself look close to the devil as possible. Why?
Oh yeah, it's war paint.
I want you people in the chat. If that man came up to you and he stormed your ship, are you gonna fight him or are you gonna lay down?
Well,
surrender.
There's a simple modern example of that in prisons. Who's the one person no one fucks with? The crazy guy. You don't know what he's gonna do. It doesn't matter how tough you are. It doesn't matter how professional you are. It doesn't matter where you are in a gang. No one wants to pick with that crazy guy because you don't know what he's gonna do. You know, he's crazy. He's not afraid of death or pain. But here's another thing, war paint. The samurai did it with their helmets. It's war paint. Armor that was made to look like either an animal or something scary. Why did they use particular colors for cloaks to make people seem more powerful than they are? You want another one? Ernest Röhm in World War II that was on the German front. His reputation for winning was so powerful that when anyone fought against him, their likelihood of winning just went down the drain because their soldiers already said, fuck, we're going to lose. We're fighting against Ernest Röhm. We're going to lose. And so they already fought believing that they had already lost the fight. And so they lost. Reputation is a powerful thing. If you read the 77 Laws of Power or the Art of War, reputation is second to none. Guard it with your life. If your reputation is so powerful, you've already won the battle before it started.
Yeah.
And these are the early pioneers of that.
Yeah, Blackbeard, this guy. Also, yes, Bathory. The Duchess who murdered the young woman and bathed in their blood to remain young. That was actually a thing. She would drain their blood into a bath and have a nice blood bath because she thought it made her younger. It gave her the youth of the young woman.
There's a certain amount of disgusting practices that still happen today around the world, but let's not get into that. It's heavily tied with what's going on with Hollywood and a certain high-profile celebrities and politicians in the US. But it's not a new thing either. Okay, do we want to go with part 2 and continue the story? I think we do.
Sure. I'll be back. I have to go let my dog out.
Yeah, take your time. Take your time. I'll handle it from here. All right, here we go. Strap in. Part 2.
Hello everyone. Last week we talked about how Arthas finished his journey into darkness and merged together with Ner'zhul, forming the Lich King. In his mind, he took care of the last remaining bit of good inside of him by stabbing it with Frostmourne, as well as taking care of Ner'zhul's influence. No one tells me what to do. I've got everything I need from you. Now the power is mine and mine alone. Now there is only I. I am the Lich King, and I am ready. With those words, the Lich King woke up and began his campaign against the world. But before that moment, several very important events took place that we do need to talk about. So, let's begin, shall we? As Arthas made his journey to Northrend, he left Kel'thuzad behind to take care of business. Jaina Proudmoore, she took the survivors of Lordaeron, those that survived the events of the Plague. They battled against the Burning Legion together with Thrall and several others. They won the battle, they blew up Archimonde, and afterwards Jaina settled with her people in Theramore, while Thrall and his people, they built up Orgrimmar. These two leaders were able to look beyond race. Remember how Jaina went to the internment camp when she was young? She didn't just see monsters, she actually saw, creatures that could be pitied with and perhaps had to be released. So they worked together towards peace. They tried to bring some sort of peace between the Alliance and the Horde. Sylvanas Windrunner teamed up with the Dreadlord Varimafras, and together they took the capital city and they formed a faction known as the Forsaken.
The capital city is ours, but we are no longer part of the Scourge. From here on out, we shall be known as the Forsaken. We will find our own path in this world, Dreadlord, and slaughter anyone who stands in our way.
All those able to free themselves from the Lich King's control, they found a home under the leadership of their queen, they joined the Horde, and Sylvanas had her people work on the Plague while plotting her revenge. The Scarlet Crusade was formed, which evolved out of the Knights of the Silver Hand, the order of paladins that Arthas used to belong to. These men and women, they were dedicated to cleanse the lands of the undead of Lordaeron. They made some great progress as well with the legendary blade Ashbringer in the hands of Alexandros Mograine. I've done a full video on the Ashbringer. In short, it's speculated to be made out of the core of a Naru. It was infused with the Holy Light and it did decimating damage to the Scourge. Unfortunately, the Scarlet Crusade was infiltrated from within, and the Dreadlord Balnazar, he worked on corrupting it. He manipulated Alexandros' son, Renaud Mograine, causing him to betray his father and stab him in the back with the Holy Blade. This action did not only corrupt the Ashbringer, turn it to darkness, it also placed his father in the hands of Kel'thuzad, who turned him into a Death Knight. Now, some of the members of the Scarlet Crusade, they did not agree with the path that they were on. They did not know that they were infiltrated from within, but they also didn't agree with how fanatic some of the members were. So they stepped away and they formed their own order called the Argent Dawn. Alexandros had a second son, Darien Mograine, who found out that his father might not be dead and still could be saved. He got a team together with volunteers from the Argent Dawn. Together they ventured into the floating citadel of Naxxramas in search of his father.
I'm sorry, but this looks like Cloud. And the sword is like a giant thing that looks like Cloud's sword. I just realized it. Let's carry on.
There he found out the truth, that his father was now an agent of the Lich King, one of the four horsemen. So with great effort, he struck down his own father, but this did not end the torment. Alexandros was still bound to the blade Ashbringer, connected to the corrupted blade. From the blade, he whispered to his son to bring him to the Scarlet Monastery, where, by this time, Renaud had been made Scarlet Commander by the Dreadlord Balnazar. Upon seeing his younger brother, Renaud tries to cut down the final reminder of his former life, but from the blade comes his father's spirits to bring sweet, sweet vengeance. The son slaughtered by the father he had betrayed, and yet Darien couldn't live with the idea of his father's spirits being trapped like that. He sought out the aid of the exiled paladin Tyrion Fordring, who told him that only an act of love greater than the act of evil that corrupted the swords would be powerful enough to free his father's soul. But he also warned the young Mograine that such an act is often the ultimate test of faith. With those words, Darien made his way back to the Argent Dawn, but before he left Tyrion behind, he told him that the Argent Dawn needed men like him. He was once a living vessel of the light. He could be that man, he could be the paladin again. He could be an inspiration, a force, a hero. At Light's Hope Chapel, they could see an army of Scourge led by Kel'thuzad on the way to conquer the chapel and claim the fallen champions buried beneath it. The champions of the light, they put up a very fierce fight, but Darien saw that there was no way that they could win. Not even the arrival of Tyrion himself could change the tides of battle, so Darien embraced his destiny and he made the ultimate sacrifice. Only a test of faith, an act of love would be able to cleanse the blade and set his father free. So he took the Ashbringer and he stabbed himself. In response, the heavens opened up, light scoured the land, decimating the Scourge forces and saving the day. Yet not all was lost for Kel'thuzad. He might not have claimed the thousands buried beneath Light's Hope Chapel, but he did get his hands on a new, powerful Death Knight. In death, Darien was converted, and with the corrupted Ashbringer, he would lead their undead forces into battle and fight against those he had sought to protect. Now in-game, things went a little bit different. We were the ones to make contact with Tyrion, and we tried to get him out of exile, and we were the ones who assaulted the floating citadel of Naxxramas, way back when during Classic. Considering the overall storyline, I'm just going to assume that the events described in the comics, that's the way it all went down. Now within the comics, we also read that Thrall and Varian, under Jaina's guidance, they sit down at Fedamore to try and get some sort of peace between the Alliance and the Horde. These peace treaties, surprisingly, went actually very well, until they were attacked, and old hatreds quickly caused accusations to be tossed back and forth.
Now, just to give everyone a little bit of context, Thrall is Green Jesus, who is one of the protagonists of Warcraft 3, and he is the war chief of the Horde. On the other side, Varian, he becomes the king of the Alliance, since the original king was killed by Arthas, and Arthas becomes the Lich King, so Varian was the next in line to the throne, so he ends up leading the Alliance.
Garrosh blamed the Alliance, Varian blamed the Horde, and the peace that they tried to achieve, it was shattered. There was no way to sit down and try to discuss things further, to try to explain the situation, since the Lich King by this time he had woken up and he decided to let the world know by attacking them on all fronts. The wrath of the Lich King pre-event happened, and the Alliance and the Horde, each of them separately, they launched their campaigns against the Lich King.
It's begun. Young heroes, I was once like you. You have come to this place seeking to bring judgment upon the damned. You will venture deep into forgotten lands. You will see wonders beyond imagining. But be warned. The land itself will rise up against you. Long-forgotten terrors will smother your courage. You will sacrifice everything as the final darkness falls. In the end, all that awaits you is death.
A new hero class was introduced in the expansion, namely Death Knights, who started their adventure within Icarus, firm under control of the Lich King. Each race has their own backstory, but none were able to fight back against the whispers of the Lich King, for the Lich King's will is first and foremost. Their mission was to destroy the forces of the Scarlet Crusade, who were stationed in this area, still remarkably untouched by the plague. With some very clever infiltration, a bit of plague here and there, and of course the devastating might of the Frostworms, the Scarlet Crusade was quickly defeated. Those able set sail to the lands of Northrend, calling themselves the Scarlet Onslaught, but the majority of them were pretty much destroyed. This left one more target for the Death Knights to take, Light's Hope Chapel itself. Led by the Death Knight, Darien Mograine, the soldiers of the Scourge marched upon the chapel, yet the Warriors of the Light did not surrender.
By the way, so if you started playing a Death Knight, and if you start playing a Death Knight, you are actually under the command of the Lich King. So you've spent about 4 or 5 levels playing the Death Knight intro campaign, starting at level 58. You don't start at level 1, you start at level 58, and you're under the direct command of the Lich King, who is literally right there with you. So you're listening to him, he's sending you on missions, you're learning your abilities, and
Actually,
this is the
it's
finale.
55.
55? Oh, okay. Well, 55. But, and this is the final mission, Assaulting Light's Hope Chapel. And you pretty much see
55 to 50.
56, 57. But anyway, you pretty much see that the forces of the light are at 300, whereas you've got the forces of the Scourge being at 10,000. Now this, for anyone that's a Lord of the Rings fan, is the number of soldiers you had at Helm's Deep. Except there's no fortress here. It's just on open ground. Enjoy!
The skies turn red with the
It's
blood of
also a
the
reference to
fallen.
it's also a reference to 300.
Leave all the ashes and misery in your destructive wake. I cannot. The blade bites me. You will do as I command. I am in control here. Win, Darian.
With the Ashbringer no longer listening to its master, and the paladin Tyrion Fordring making his appearance, Darren and his troops, they were defeated and brought before the chapel.
I cannot. The blade bites me. Bring them before the chapel. Stand down, Death Knights. We have lost.
Have you learned nothing, boy? You have become all that your father fought against. Like that coward Arthas, you allowed yourself to be consumed by the darkness, feeding upon the misery of those you tortured and killed. Your master knows what lies beneath the chapel. It is why he dares not show his face. He sent you and your Death Knights to meet their doom, Darian.
Save your breath, old man. It might be the last you ever draw.
My son!
Father!
My dear, beautiful boy.
What?
Father, you have returned. You've been gone a long time, Father. I thought...
Nothing could have kept me away from here, Darian. Not from my home and family.
Father, I wish to join you in the war against the undead. I want to fight. I can sit idle no longer.
My son, there will come a day when you will command the Ashbringer, and with it, mete out justice across this land. You will bring pride to our people, and Lordaeron will be a better place because of you. But, my son, that day is not today. Do not forget.
Touching. He's mine now.
You betrayed me. You betrayed us all, monster! Face the might of Mograine!
Pathetic.
You're a damned monster, Arthas.
You were right, Fordring. I did send them in to die. Their lives are meaningless. But yours... Apocalypse!
That day is not today. Tyrion!
Arthas!
What is this?
Your end.
Impossible. This is not over. When next we meet, it won't be on holy ground, Paladin.
Rise, Darian, and listen. We have all been witness to a terrible tragedy. The blood of good men has been shed upon this soil. Honorable knights, slain defending their lives. And while such things can never be forgotten, we must remain vigilant in our cause. The Lich King must answer for what he has done, and must not be allowed to cause further destruction in our world. On this day, I call for a union. The Argent Dawn and the Order of the Silver Hand will come together as one. We will succeed where so many before us have failed. We will take the fight to Arthas, and we will tear down the walls of Icecrown! The Argent Crusade comes for you, Arthas!
So too do the Knights of the Ebon Blade. Although our kind has no place in your world, we will fight to bring an end to the Lich King. This I vow!
And so the Knights of the Ebon Blade, they stepped away from the Lich King and they teamed up with the Argent Crusade in their battle against the Lich King. Ciri and Fordring wrote out letters for the new Death Knights to take with them as they met the respective leaders, so that they wouldn't simply be cast out as undead. As the world embraced the Death Knights, prepared their forces, even the magical city of Dalaran was rebuilt and sent flying off to Northrend. Dalaran was going to help with the campaign against the Lich King as well as Malygos, and during the expansion, we found out what was going on in Northrend. There were 3 major storylines going on during the expansion. You had the war with the Blue Dragon aspect Malygos, you had the Old God Yogg-Saron, the Titan Keepers and all the events with Ulduar, and then there was, of course, the Scourge and the Lich King.
Now, one of the beautiful parts, if you played a Death Knight, when you completed that quest line and you were trying to join the Alliance or the Horde, you would walk into the capital city and all the guards would throw food at you. Tomatoes, apples, they would boo you, you were hated, and you were forced to walk through the capital city to the leader's chamber, give them the letter, and pretty much they were the ones to say, okay, let's not kill this person, let's let them into the Horde. It's very reminiscent from the Burning Crusade, where you had 2 factions, being the Draenei and the Blood Elves, and their respecting faction leaders had to let that faction into the Alliance or the Horde with a letter. This is a little different considering that you're dead, but you're not dead. Yeah, go on.
One of the things people need to remember about this, when they did this whole walking through the capital city, yeah, the whole capital city is right in front of them right now. Back then, you literally had to walk all the way to the end of the Valley of Spirits over them. I can't remember where it was, but that's where it was originally. Then they moved it into the front in the trade district. That's actually how far you had to go. The Alliance had to walk all the way through the front gates, all the way through trade, all the way through Old Town, up into the castle, and all the way to the throne.
To give people a sense of scale, it was around 5 minutes. 5 minutes walking.
It took you 5 minutes to get that, and you constantly got spat on.
That's a sense of scale, yeah. Yogg-Saron, no, that one's not Cthulhu. He is one of the old gods, but not Cthulhu.
Okay, basically, in short and sweet, he's an old god. Old god, they're basically all the names are ripped off of Lovecraftian. Yogg-Saron, Cthulhu, Yasharaj, N'Zoth.
Yeah, there's basically 5 of them on Azeroth, but yeah, one of them was in Northrend. If you remember last week when we watched the video, Arthas encounters one of the old gods when he's going through the Nerubian Kingdom, and they basically run away from him. That was Yogg-Saron. All right, let's continue.
Essentially, he's across the entirety of Northrend.
Pretty much.
It's like the sheer size of him is basically infested the entire Northrend, and that's how massive he is.
That's a big son of a bitch. Alright, let's continue.
I would love to tell each and every little detail about this expansion, but that would just take way too much time, so I'm going to briefly touch on the events in each zone related to the Lich King, and then we'll dive deeper wherever it's needed. Borean Tundra is one of the 2 locations for the Alliance and Horde's main point of entry into Northrend. The Horde build up Warsong Hold, while the Alliance build up Valiant's Keep. Both factions work on securing the area, taking out the Scourge, and here we find out that Kel'thuzad is still roaming about, so Naxxramas is sure to make a return, and we also help out the Death Knight Vasarian with saving General Arlos and his sister out of the hands of Valanar and the Lich King.
Now this is a surprise, Thasarian. I hadn't heard from Mograine or the other Death Knights for months. You've come to rejoin the Scourge, I take it.
I would sooner slit my own throat. You would pay for what you did to your own men, Arthas. For what you did to me! I swear it!
Howling Fjord was the other entry point into Northrend. Here we find out that Tyrion Fordring, he's gone undercover in an attempt to sneak in undetected. Unfortunately, they also decided to transport the Ashbringer separately, but Ares the Oathbound, charged with bringing the artifacts, he has fallen. He places a blessing of light upon us, asks of us to bring the artifact back to Lord Irulan Trueblade. Upon doing so, Tyrion removes the disguise and he proclaims that he's done with letting others sacrifice themselves for the greater good. He's done with playing hide and seek, and he gets himself ready to assault Icecrown. In this area, we also find out about the Vrykul, Titan creations that were cursed by the old gods. These are the ancestors of the humans who went into hibernation, but they woke up again sometime around Wrath the Lich King, and they've now allied themselves with the Lich King, who they call their death god. We try to put a stop to their plans. We even kill the wife of King Ymmeron before she wakes up her husband. But the Lich King shows up and he takes their king to Utgard Pinnacle, where we would later take him out.
Not yet, Ymmeron. I have other plans for you. You will serve me better within Utgard Pinnacle. And if these insects survive to find you again, you will get the chance to avenge your wife.
If you like Vikings, this is the place for you.
The Vrykul were not only found in the Howling Fjord, and some of them, they competed for the Death's God gifts. The modern day Valkyrie, for example, their creations of the Lich King, they are created from female Vrykul of Valkyrian. Only those that proved themselves worthy were blessed with this gift, and at Jotunheim, they held a competition to hopefully ascend and become Ymir, the elite warriors of the Lich King. Those that failed and lost the battle at Jotunheim, they were turned into Vargul, a lesser form of undeath, because they were not found to be worthy. Within Grizzly Hills, we find out that Archmage Arugal, he's been resurrected as a ghost by the Dark Fallen Princess. Arugal was responsible for summoning the Worgen from the Emerald Dream, but he did it with good intentions. He tried to use the Worgen to protect Gilneas against the Scourge, but the Worgen not only took care of the undead, they also turned on his people. Driven mad with guilt, he adopted the Worgen as his children, and he retreated to Shadowfang Keep, where heroes would later take him out. Now they try to use him again to convert the population into Worgen, but we find out about their plans and we put a stop to it. In this zone, we also meet with a troll named Drakuru, who tricks us into believing that he will help us out with cleansing Drakvaron of the foul undead and restore it to its noble purpose. In truth, he plays us like little pawns. He was working for the Lich King all along, who grants him great power for providing him with a new army.
Arise and accept my gift. Charge you now with the cleansing of Zuldrak, Drakuru.
As you wish, Master.
Fail me and it shall be your undoing. Succeed and even greater power shall be yours.
His next task takes him into the next zone, Zuldrak, where he works on claiming the area for the Lich King, and with the help of the Death Knight Stefan Vadu, we infiltrate Volteris. We convince Drakuru that we're working for him, while we're actually sabotaging their operations. In the final confrontation, Drakuru calls upon the Lich King to help him out to save his life, but instead, the Lich King beheads him for his failure, while sparing our lives since, apparently, we amuse him.
What treachery is this? You be paying for this deceit with your life, man. This foolish treachery has cost you your destiny. Master, this mortal scum be double-crossing us. They must be made to suffer.
Have failed me, Drakuru. It is you who should suffer. Be content that your death is a quick one. As for you, I spare your insignificant life as a reward for this amusing betrayal. There may yet be a shred of potential in you. next we meet, I shall require much more to justify your life.
In Zul'Drak, we also find the Argent Crusade in the middle of two forces. On the one hand, they're fighting against the Scourge, while on the other hand, they have to deal with the Drakari trolls. These trolls have begun sacrificing their own Loa, their own animal gods, to fight back against the Scourge. A Zandalari tribe has also showed up to intervene on behalf of the gods, as well as witness the end of the Drakari Empire.
By the way, if anyone plays the Hunter class in World of Warcraft, this is one of the most sought after pets. It spawns for 10 minutes, somewhere in one of the huge zones, every 16 to 20 hours. I spent multiple days without sleeping, being there for 16 hours, just flying across back and forth spawn points. Never got it. And then someone that I was just friends with that I helped a few times basically messaged me and said, hey, it spawned. Do you want it? And I'm like, please, for the love of God. And she was just like, yeah, there's a warlock here. I'll help summon you. And then I got it. And I was like,
hey, Kuma.
Yes. What's up?
So I want to point out, if you guys are noticing a pattern here with him showing up in every zone.
Don't spoil it.
I'm just showing him, telling him what to do. Also, want to point out about this, about the Zul'Drak thing, where that's actually one of my favorite moments, where the Lich King just goes and says, and you, I reward you just insignificant life for this amusing betrayal. Like, this was amusing. You get to live.
Basically, it's a fun expansion. The quest lines are very, very amusing. It's not just kill 20 guys, here's your treasure. It's like it's a story arc, and it's fun.
Yeah.
And it's fun. I did some of these zones not for the XP or anything, just for the story, because it was fun. All right, let's continue.
We do whatever it takes to stop the madness. We team up with the Loa, and we even go inside of Gundrak, their capital city, and we put an end to the Drakari. Sholazar Basin has always been able to protect itself from the Scourge from the undead, but the Cult of the Damned has been able to infiltrate it and do some serious damage to one of the pillars.
This is where that tiger spawns. Now, I know this place like the back of my hand, because it has a spawn point here, and then it's got like a spawn point somewhere here, and then it's got like a spawn point somewhere here. Now, to give you a sense of scale, if you were on the ground on a horse mount at 100% speed, it would probably take you 15 minutes to do a lap.
Yeah.
Hunters love their pets.
And
hunters fucking love their pets. I'm telling you this.
It wasn't the only rare they had there. I think that was the second rare.
Oh, yeah, but no one gave a shit about that one. No one cared. There was only one that they cared about.
These pillars were used to protect the zone, and now the way is open for the Scourge to rush in and take the land. With the aid of Avatar Freya, we find out about a Titan creation called a Timidian, and with its destructive force, we take out the Scourge. There is one more zone that I'm going to talk about today, which is the Storm Peaks. Here we find out that Muradin Bronzebeard, he's now the king of the Frostborn, and he goes by the name of Yorick Stormheart. When Arthas picked up Frostmourne, Muradin didn't die. Instead, he woke up with total amnesia, and he was picked up by a group of the Frostborn dwarves. A gigantic Jormungandr attacked them, but Muradin is no pushover, and he single-handedly brought the worm down, saving the dwarves. This earned him the name Yorick Stormheart, a name of legends, and over time, they made him their king. During the questline in Storm Peaks, we team up with Muradin's brother, Bran Bronzebeard, in an attempt to get access to the archives within Ulduar, and during this questline, King Stormheart helps us out. Bran wants to meet and thank the king for his help, and as they reunite, Muradin's memory returns. He tries to remember his life before he joined the Frostborn, and all he remembers are nightmares of a human. Tall, light hair, death black armor, Arthas. Muradin feels responsible for letting Arthas slip to the dark side like that without doing anything about it. Regrets won't change a thing though, only actions can make things right, so Muradin would later join us in the assault upon Icecrown. the assault upon Icecrown, the events within Dragonblight and beyond. So many more things to talk about, ladies and gentlemen, yet I'm going to call it for a day. Next week, we'll dive further into the campaign against the Lich King, we'll finish talking about the zones in Northrend, and we're going to knock on Icecrown's door. So for now, thank you very much for watching, everyone. Subscribe if you like my videos, leave a like if you enjoyed this one, and until next time, guys, see ya!
Something amusing I want to share about the Ashbringer in vanilla World of Warcraft. There were torn pages from like a fishing book that you could... Well, there were torn pages of a book that you would get by fishing. And these pages were clues as to where the Ashbringer is located. Now, the Ashbringer was not available in the original game, but these little clues were sprinkled, you know, here and there and everywhere. And as you can imagine, the fan base was on this giant hunt to find the Ashbringer.
That's not exactly true.
What? Alright. Tell the story.
Yeah, there were clues. But when Naxxramas came out, they actually gave you the corrupted Ashbringer. This was a big thing, because if you had the corrupted Ashbringer and you walked into the Scarlet Monastery, they were all friendly to you. They wouldn't attack you. And you can have this entire role-playing story element in the Scarlet Monastery with the Ashbringer.
And this is basically that scene. So this is basically a dungeon that it's at level 39, level 40. You know, you clear it, you get gear, all that good shit. But if you have the corrupted Ashbringer, no one in the dungeon attacks you. They all, you know, hail you, and you walk through, and then as soon as you get up to the end boss, the spirit of the father wakes up and he kills the final boss. So that was a really nice little thing.
I will say, I actually knew one person who actually has the Ashbringer.
And thankfully for
everybody
everyone,
knows where it is.
And thankfully everyone now can get it in WoW Classic, because, you know, WoW Classic is WoW Classic and it's available.
Yeah.
But Naxxramas is a bitch, because you have to get it. You have to kill the 4 horsemen, which is basically the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and it's one of the most difficult boss fights because you have to perfectly coordinate to fight 4 bosses at the same time in corners of a giant room. So it's one of the hardest. It's one of the hardest boss fights in the hardest raid of the game. It earns its place.
Yeah.
It earns its place.
I will say this. Is it one of the hardest? Yes. It's not on the top 10 though. There are a lot harder. But I will say this. The person I know who actually has the weapon, you actually know who this guy is. His name is Law. If that sounds familiar, that's because he's one of the community managers Blizzard hired. He was a YouTuber or Twitch streamer until he got hired by Blizzard because they like to hire people from the community.
That's how it's done.
And
it's like, you're making a lot of good videos and stuff. How would you like to join our team?
And he actually has it. And the only reason I know this is because he played on my server. We played on the same server.
It's really cool because a lot of the higher-ups at Blizzard nowadays are former hardcore fans of the franchise. And a lot of the recruitment process is basically like, all right, you want to join the story writing team. Let's discuss the story. Who's your favorite character? You know, like you if you're a hardcore fan, it should be easy for you.
Yeah, and also they also hire people like Christy Golden. Christy Golden he wrote multiple books. If the name sounds familiar, that's because remember that book Kuma told you about like 30 minutes ago, Arthur, Rise of the Lich King? It told you the story of Invincible and all that stuff.
That's one of her books.
She wrote that book, and it, in my opinion, is the greatest story they've ever done.
I've only seen the extracts for Invincible, but hopefully we get to that one day. Now, we've been live for about 2 hours, so we need to grab a quick 3-minute break for everyone. Matt, do you want to keep talking with everyone, or do you also want a 3-minute break?
No, I'm fine. I took a 2-minute break.
All right, I'll let Matt take over for 3 minutes while I go make a coffee, and we'll be back and continue. If you want a drink or a snack, go grab one now, because there's about an hour of storyline left. Otherwise, enjoy chatting with Matt.
So, yeah, I'm pretty much very knowledgeable on this. In my opinion, one of the best parts about this expansion is the story. There's no bad guy like Arthas, and we will see more about it. One of the things about this expansion was the poop patch. So, how many of you guys in chat actually know anything about the poop patch? I'm curious. Because I don't know how much they talked about the poop patch, but I don't know how much they said about the poop patch. But the poop patch was very good. There's a reason they, although I will say this, was it the best poop patch? No. Just because it got bad because of terrible people, and then they had to cut it off 2 weeks early. It's surprise, when you let people turn into zombies, and they can turn other people into zombies, that ends badly for everybody. So, yeah. It was pretty bad. Noble's actually one of my favorite YouTubers because of how good he is and how knowledgeable he is. There's actually a machinima based on the Deathnet ending. It's easy, just like a Battlefield top chapter, and it should come up. It is a machinima, and it's really, really good. But it's one of the best machinimas, and it's based off that event. But yeah, like I said, the pre-patch event, I've done it. It was okay. The problem with Wrath pre-patch was people got turned into zombies. They're assholes. Other people got turned, and they started turning other people into zombies. They turned other people into zombies, and then a Blizzard just said, "Okay, this was a bad idea. We're canceling it 2 weeks ago."
Yeah, it's been studied. It's basically studied what can happen in a pandemic. That's how big it was. It's still studied today.
There are 3 things that have been studied by actual people to real life. 1 was the Steve Wrath pre-patch. 2, the Blood Plague. To the point CDC requested information from Blizzard on that, and Blizzard was like, "Oh my god, no, we didn't have a pandemic in the game. We never had a pandemic. Don't know what you're talking about."
What pandemic? What are you talking about? What do you mean everyone was dead?
Is like, no, seriously, we can use this. It's a very good data. You actually gave that real data and put in everything.
Because all it took was one person to get infected, go to a capital city, and it starts spreading. And as long as there's someone alive to spread it, it keeps going. And the thing is, it literally spread fucking everywhere. The people had to run out of the capital cities to hide in little pocket communities outside any big city to avoid catching it. And even then, people were purposely spreading it. It almost sounds like something we might be experiencing right about now.
By the way, you can blame hunters for the blood plague.
There's a good old meme in Warcraft: when something goes wrong, blame the fucking hunters.
Well, no, it's actually the hunter's fault, because how the blood plague happened, it got infected on a pet. The hunter dismissed the pet and resummoned the pet outside the instant, and the blood plague never
left the pet. So it would get cancelled on any player that leaves the dungeon, but because it was on a pet that wasn't actually there when it left, it stayed. Anyway, let's continue. I think Matt's frozen.
Hold on, wait, one more thing. So the third and final thing that has been studied by actual people is the arsenal. The arsenal is considered an economy, and it has been studied by multiple high-level economists in the world based on an actual...
Oh, yeah.
Like, the WoW... amazing how big the economy is and how much people have been studied. Wow. Well, I've been studied by almost a lot of shit because of how good it is.
Yeah. All right. Let's continue. All right. Here we go. Break over. Continue with the story.
Hello everyone! Last week we did the second part of the story of the Lich King, in which we talked about the creation and the deflection of his Death Knights, the formation of the Argent Crusade, a little bit about the Ashbringer, and the general start of the campaign against the Lich King. This week we're going to dive further into the campaign, we're going to finish talking about the zones of Northrend, and we're going to knock on Icecrown's doors. Let's begin, shall we? Dragonblight, the great dragon graveyard. This is the place where dragons go to die. Here we met up and we helped out the several different dragonflights with defending their shrines from the Scourge. The Scourge is also trying to resurrect the gigantic protodrake known as Galagrond, who millennia ago was defeated by the Aspects together with the Titan Keeper Tyr. We luckily prevented the resurrection from ever happening, as well as gaining the support of the Red Dragonflight. The Scarlet Onslaught, those that were able to escape the Lich King's Death Knights in the Plague Lands, they've built up a base within Dragonblight. Unfortunately, it seems like any form of the Scarlet organization is destined to be corrupted, since the Dreadlord Mal'Ganis, he's infiltrated them under the disguise of Admiral Borean Westwind. This means that Arth's sacrifice to get revenge, to pick up Frostmourne, to take down Mal'Ganis, it meant very little, since as a Dreadlord, Mal'Ganis cannot die upon Azeroth, and he simply returned later.
I will see you weaklings in Icecrown, if you live that long.
As we finally confront Mal'Ganis within Icecrown, he claims that we will never be able to take on the Lich King without his forces, which had some belief that he would be able to play a role within the final encounter, but sadly, that storyline never made it in, and his current fate is unknown.
I'll have my revenge on him and you.
The Nerubians and Ajol Nerub can also be found within Dragonblight. Those that were able to survive the War of the Spider, they're now in a civil war against those forced to serve the Lich King. With that, we found a common enemy, so we teamed up with the Nerubians and we went into the Old Kingdom, eventually taking care of none other than Anub'arak himself.
Never thought I would be free of him.
Meanwhile, our forces have made great effort assaulting Icecrown Citadel from the back, and in response, the Lich King, he sent out his floating Citadel of Naxxramas to lay siege upon Winterguard Keep. Heroes once more ventured within the Forsaken Place, facing off against the most vile and powerful creations of the Scourge.
Forces are merely marshaled to strike back against your enemies, my liege.
Soon, we will eradicate the Alliance and Horde. Then the rest of Azeroth will fall before the might of my army.
Yes, Master. The time of their ultimate demise grows close. What is this?
Invaders, here. Destroy them, Kel'thuzad. Naxxramas must not fall.
As you command, Master.
Greetings.
Not even Kel'thuzad himself was able to finish off these heroes, yet this time we couldn't find his phylactery, so Kel'thuzad can still make a return. A Lich, a being like Kel'thuzad, can only be truly destroyed when you destroy its phylactery, and after his defeat in Classic, we did find the phylactery. We gave it to Father Inigo Montoy, a quest giver at Light's Hope Chapel, with the idea that surely the forces at Light's Hope Chapel were going to destroy it. As it turns out, he never turned over the phylactery to the Argent Dawn, instead he brought it back to Arthas, and as the reward, he was turned into a Lich himself. Now known as Fazal the Duskbringer, he commanded part of the Scourge forces assaulting Winterguard Keep. After a very long questline, we discovered the location of his phylactery, and together with Bolvar 4 Dragon, we end the Lich life and we save Winterguard Keep. With this victory, we were able to focus our full attention upon the Wrathgate. We assault Icecrown Citadel and we challenge the Lich King.
Take the lead! For Morderon! For the Alliance! Back, you mindless wretches!
Rise up, sons of the Horde! Blood and glory await us! Merogaar for the Horde!
I was wondering if you'd show up.
I couldn't let the Alliance have all the fun today.
Arthas! The blood of your father, of your people, demands justice! Come forth, coward, and answer for your crimes!
You speak of justice, of cowardice. I will show you the justice of the grave and the true meaning of fear. Enough talk! Let it be finished!
You will pay for all the lives you've stolen, traitor!
Boldly stated, but there is nothing you can... What?
Did you think we had forgotten? Did you think we had forgiven? Behold now the terrible vengeance of the Forsaken!
Sylvanas.
Death to the Scourge! And death to the living! Now, all can see. This is the hour of the Forsaken.
We're finished. No escape for any of us.
For years, Sylvanas had a Forsaken work on perfecting a plague, which they planned to use against Arthas and the Scourge. But Sylvanas was betrayed from within by Grand Apothecary Putris and the Dreadlord Varimafras. They were the ones responsible for the loss of so many lives at the Wrathgate, as well as taking the Undercity from the Banshee Queen. Both the Alliance and Horde, they had to pull their attention away from Northrend for a while, as they focused on retaking the city and bringing sweet, sweet justice to those responsible.
Years wasted. We are victorious!
After the battle for Undercity, after stopping Varimafras for summoning Sargeras, this brings us to the final zone related to the Lich King, Icecrown itself. High Lord Tyrion Fordring led the assault into the Scourge's main territory, slowly but surely claiming more ground for the Warriors of Light. The Knights of the Evanblade also played their part, as they took the Shadow Vault and made it their main base of operations within Icecrown. As we follow the questline, we encounter a young child named Matthias Lehner, who shows us what the Lich Lich King has done with his time. For example, how he battled with Illidan, how he resurrected the mighty blue dragon Sindragosa. He explained that after his battle with Illidan, Arthas realized what was holding him back, that he was still human, he could still feel, he could still bleed. He still had a heart, so the first thing that he did when he became a king was carve out his own heart and toss it down a pit. Adventurers, during their questing in Icecrown, they accidentally touched it without realizing what it was, and Arthas surely wouldn't leave it unguarded again. We bring this information to Tyrion, who was already informed by his scouts that the Cult of the Damned were bearing some sort of artifact. They were taking it to the Cathedral of Darkness, and he now realizes that this artifact is Arthas' heart. This thing might contain the last bit of his humanity. As long as such an artifact exists, there is still a chance that Arthas can become a man again. Disguised as cultists, we enter the cathedral, but the Lich King is not easily fooled. He immediately recognizes us for who we are, and he's not surprised to find us there either. Tyrion, upon seeing the heart, he realized that there's only shadows from the past and that there's nothing left of Arthas to redeem. He has seen the truth for himself now, and with a mighty charge, he brings the Ashbringer down, destroying the hearts, yet knocking himself out in the process. The Lich King is about to make the old man pay for that action, but luckily the Knights of the Ebonblade, they show up and they save the day. Tyrion does not see all of this as a failure, since it confirmed what he needed to know. There is no Arthas anymore, there is only the Lich King, so it's time to hold a little tournament and find out who is ready and who is worthy to join the Argent Crusade in their assault upon Icecrown.
You have heard the call of the Argent Crusade, and you have boldly answered. It is here, in the Crusaders' Colosseum, that you will face your greatest challenges. Those of you who survive the rigors of the Colosseum will join the Argent Crusade on its march to Icecrown Citadel.
Heroes of the Alliance and Horde are pitched against the fiercest dangers Northrend had to offer, until the Lich King himself showed up to ruin the party.
We will strike against Icecrown Citadel and destroy what remains of the Scourge. There is no challenge that we cannot face united.
You will have your challenge, Fordring.
Arthas, you are hopelessly outnumbered. Lay down Frostmourne and I will grant you a just death.
The Nerubians built an empire beneath the frozen wastes of Northrend. An empire that you so foolishly built your structures upon. My empire. The souls of your fallen champions will be mine. Fordring.
Our guests have arrived, just as the Master promised.
Anub'arak, resurrected once more by the Lich King and forced to serve one final time, we take him out and we finally liberate him.
I have failed you, Master.
With the tournament behind us, with the troops selected, with the path mostly cleared, it was finally time to knock on the door and let the Lich King know that the Light's justice has been awakened.
Rise up, Argent Crusaders! The hour of justice has come!
Can you feel it, my son? Closing in all around you. The Light's justice has been awakened. The sins of the past have finally caught up to you. You will be called to account for all the atrocities you committed. The unspeakable horrors you've let loose upon this world. And the dark, ancient powers you've enslaved. Though my soul was one of the first to be devoured by your evil. There are thousands more bound within this blade, and they cry out for release. Look now to your defenses, my son, for the champions of justice gather at your gates.
With the Lich King's attention drawn to the front door, a small team worked on infiltrating the frozen halls led by either Jaina Proudmoore or Sylvanas Windrunner.
Thank the light for seeing you here safely. We have much work to do if we are to defeat the Lich King and put an end to the Scourge. Our allies within the Argent Crusade and the Knights of the Ebon Blade have broken through the front gate of Icecrown and are attempting to establish a foothold within the Citadel.
With the attention of the Lich King turned towards the front gate, we'll be working our way through the side, in search of information that will enable us to defeat him, once and for all. Our scouts have reported that the Lich King has a private chamber outside of the Frozen Throne, deep within a place called the Halls of Reflection. That is our target, champions.
We will carve a path through this wretched place and find a way to enter the Halls of Reflection. I sense powerful magic hidden away within those halls. Magic that could be the key to destroying the Scourge.
The Dark Lady watches over you. Make haste.
Intruders have entered the Master's domain. Signal the alarms. Fodder. Not even fit to labor in a quarry. Relish these final moments, for soon you will be nothing more than mindless undead.
Heroes of the Alliance, attack!
Your last waking memory will be of agonizing pain.
No! You monster!
Pathetic weaklings.
Minions, destroy these interlopers!
You will have to battle your way through this cesspit on your own. Free any Horde slaves that you come across. We will most certainly need their assistance in battling Tyrannus. I will gather reinforcements and join you on the other side of the quarry.
Wait, stop. Don't kill me, please. I'll tell you everything.
Why should the Banshee Queen spare your miserable life?
What you seek is in the Master's lair, but you must destroy Tyrannus to gain entry. Now, within the Halls of Reflection, you will find Frostmourne. It holds the truth.
Frostmourne? The Lich King is never without his blade. If you are lying to me...
I swear it's true! Please don't kill me!
Worthless gnat. Death is all that awaits you.
No!
Do not think that I shall permit you entry into my master's sanctum so easily. Pursue me if you dare.
A fitting end for a traitor. Come, we must free the slaves and see what is within the Lich King's chamber for ourselves.
What a cruel end. Come, heroes. We must see if the gnome's story is true. If we can separate Arthas from Frostmourne, we might have a chance at stopping him.
Alas, brave adventurers, your meddling has reached its end. Do you hear the clatter of bone and steel coming up the tunnel behind you? That is the sound of your impending demise.
We will hold off the undead as long as we can, even to our dying breath. Deal with the Scourge Lord!
Such an amusing gesture from the rabble. When I have finished with you, my master's blade will feast upon your souls. Die!
Impossible!
Rimefang! Warn!
Brave champions, we owe you our lives, our freedom. Though it be a tiny gesture in the face of this enormous debt, I pledge that from this day forth, all will know of your deeds and the blazing path of light you cut through the shadow of this dark citadel. This day will stand as a testament not only to your valor, but to the fact that no foe, not even the Lich King himself, can stand
Heroes, to
when
me.
Alliance and Horde set aside their differences and...
Nice, Jaina. Nice.
The Frost Queen is gone. We must keep moving. Our objective is near.
I like these dungeons.
I could not save them. Damn you, Arthas. Damn you!
I thought he'd never shut up. At last, Sindragosa silenced that long-winded fool. To the halls of reflection, champions. Our objective is near. I can sense it.
I love the Alliance one and the Horde one. You have different experiences depending on the faction. I love that.
I don't believe it. Frostmourne stands before us, unguarded, just as the gnome claimed. Come, heroes. Standing this close to the blade that ended my life. And the pain, it is renewed.
Frostmourne, the blade that destroyed our kingdom. Stand back! Touch that blade and your soul will be scarred for all eternity. I must attempt to commune with the spirits locked away within Frostmourne. Give me space.
Jaina, could it truly be you?
Uther! Dear Uther!
Jaina, you haven't much time. The Lich King sees what the sword sees. He will be here shortly.
Arthas is here? Maybe I...
No, girl. Arthas is not here. Arthas is merely a presence within the Lich King's mind. A dwindling presence.
But Uther, if there's any hope of reaching Arthas, I must try.
Jaina, listen to me. You must destroy the Lich King. You cannot reason with him. He will kill you and your allies and raise you all as powerful soldiers of the Scourge.
Tell me how, Uther. How do I destroy my prince?
Snap out of it, girl. You must destroy the Lich King at the place where he merged with Ner'zhul. Atop the spire, at the frozen throne. It is the only way.
You're right, Uther. Forgive me. I don't know what got a hold of me.
The Lich King is here? Then my destiny shall be fulfilled on this day.
You cannot defeat the Lich King. Not here. You would be a fool to try. He will kill those that follow you and raise them as powerful soldiers of the Scourge. But for you, Sylvanas, his reward for you would be worse than the last.
There must be a way.
Perhaps. But know this. There must always be a Lich King. Even if you were to strike down Arthas, another would have to take his place. For without the control of the Lich King, the Scourge would wash over the world like locusts, destroying all that they touched.
Who could bear such a burden?
I do not know, Banshee Queen. I suspect that the piece of Arthas that might be left inside the Lich King is all that holds the Scourge from annihilating Azeroth. Alas, the only way to defeat the Lich King is to destroy him at the place where he was created.
The Frozen Throne.
Aye.
Silence, Paladin. So, you wish to commune with the dead. You shall have your wish. Volric, Marwyn, bring their corpses to my chamber.
As you wish, my lord.
Soldiers of Lordaeron, rise to meet your master Skull.
You won't deny me this, Arthas. I must know. I must find out.
You will not escape me that easily, Arthas. I will have my vengeance.
I will not make the same mistake again, Sylvanas. This time, there will be no escape. You will all serve me in death.
He's too powerful. Heroes, quickly, come to me. We must leave this place immediately. I will do what I can to hold him in place while we flee.
Your allies have arrived, Jaina, just as you promised. You will all become powerful agents of the Scourge.
He is too powerful. We must leave this place at once. My magic can hold him in place for only a short time. Come quickly, heroes.
There is no escape. Death's cold embrace.
I will destroy this barrier. You must hold the undead back. There's an opening up ahead. Go now! It's a dead end. We have no choice but to fight. Steel yourself, heroes, for this is our last stand.
Nowhere to run. You're mine now.
Shh, I'm trying to think here.
Fire! Fire! Quickly, climb aboard. We mustn't tarry here. There's no telling when this whole mountainside will collapse.
Forgive me, heroes. I should have listened to Uther. I had to see for myself. To look into his eyes one last time. I am sorry. We now know what must be done. I will deliver this news to King Varian and High Lord Fordring.
Nowhere to run. You're mine now.
Fire! Fire! Get on board, now! This whole mountainside could collapse at any moment.
We are safe for now. His strength has increased tenfold since our last battle. It will take a mighty army to destroy the Lich King. An army greater than even the Horde can rouse.
We cannot face the Lich King on our own. He's simply too powerful, so we'll have to gather our forces and enter Icecrown Citadel, deal with the most powerful creatures, and make our way to the top. That, however, is a story I'll save for next week, when we'll talk about the conclusion of this grand storyline, as well as talk a little bit about what happened after the Lich King's fall. For now, thank you very much for watching, everyone. Subscribe if you like my videos, leave a like if you enjoyed this one, and until next time, guys, see ya!
Now he's gonna go into the final raid. Yay!
I'm calling it here.
Alright, you look like you're half asleep. I'm still good. I got coffee, so I'll take it from here.
I'm just gonna say, when it comes to the Heart of Reflection, remember last week when I said Firework and Marwyn were his two biggest those were his lieutenants for his entire life.
Mm-hmm. Even in death they serve him.
Those were in death. That's who that was guarding the sword.
Who would have taken
death,
Arthas for the nostalgic type?
Another thing I wanted to mention, the Heart of Reflection, I don't know which is the canon. I think it might be the Alliance, just because it has a more of a impact with the Uther thing.
Yeah, and it's also a bit of Jaina wanting to get some closure, and then what she says afterwards kind of ties into that one. But we'll see that in the next video.
Yeah, and since when they show Gunship, I think the Alliance is also just because of what happened afterwards. I think that's the cinematic. That's the one that is canonical. I think that's actually been confirmed by Blizzard. It's the canonical one.
They still haven't seen it, so yeah. All right.
Yeah, you play hard.
Let's continue. All right.
You're continuing.
All right. Good night.
Well, with that in mind, guys, I'm falling asleep. As some of you can see me falling asleep. It's almost 6 o'clock.
Go to bed.
By the way, Kuma, what did you think of my
your goatee? Yeah, it's looking good. I put a little more Garner in the chat for you. I don't know if you get it, but go to bed. All right, let's press on, guys. Let's press on.
Hello everyone! Last week we finished up talking about the Zones of Northrend, we talked about the Argent tournaments and the infiltration of the Frozen Halls. Now there's nothing left but to enter the halls of Icecrown and face the terrors that the Lich King has saved for us within his citadel. Let's begin, shall we?
This is our final stand. What happens here will echo through the ages. Regardless of outcome, they will know that we fought with honor, that we fought for the freedom and safety of our people. Remember, heroes, fear is your greatest enemy in these befouled halls. Steel your heart, and your soul will shine brighter than 1,000 suns. The enemy will falter at the sight of you. They will fall as the light of righteousness envelops them. Our march upon Icecrown Citadel begins now!
You now stand upon the hallowed ground of the Scourge. The light won't protect you here, Paladin. Nothing will protect you.
Arthas! I swore that I would see you dead and the Scourge dismantled. I'm going to finish what I started at Light's Hope.
You could have been my greatest champion, Fordring. A force of darkness that would wash over this world and deliver it into a new age of strife. But that honor is no longer yours. Soon, I will have a new champion. The breaking of this one has been taxing. The atrocities I have committed upon his soul. He has resisted for so long, but he will bow down before his king soon. Never! I will never serve you! In the end, you will all serve me.
The Paladin still lives? Is it possible, High Lord? Could he have survived?
The power of the light knows no bounds, Sarfang. His soul is under great strain, but he lives. For now.
Then we must save him. If we rescue Bolvar Fordragon, we may quell the unrest between the Alliance and the Horde.
Just for a little bit of context, Saurfang is one of the old veterans of the Horde. He has been around since before Thrall was even war chief or got involved in anything. He's from the old Orc clans back in Draenor. So he's very old. He's a veteran and a half. And his son was the Orc that also fought alongside Bolvar Fordragon at the Wrathgate. The one that got one-shotted by Arthas.
Could it be, Lord Fordring? If Bolvar lives, mayhap there is hope for peace between the Alliance and the Horde. We must reach the top of this cursed place and free the Paladin!
High Lord Bolvar Fordragon survived the events of the Wrathgate and is being tortured by the Lich King to turn him into a servant. Both the Alliance and the Horde make it a mission to save Bolvar, since this might quell the unrest between the factions. As we venture through Icecrown Citadel, we encounter several different bosses, but not all of them have that much story, while some of them are really interesting. We start off with Lord Merogaar. He's the guardian of the Frozen Throne within the Spire Chamber. Pieced together by the Lich King from the bones of 1,000 vanquished adventurers, creators, Merogaar wields the power of the throne itself. Without the destruction of this bony being, there is no hope of taking Icecrown Citadel.
I see only darkness.
The Lich Lady Deathwhisper is the supreme overseer of the Cult of the Damned. Entering her room triggers her speech, in which she talks about how all of them found their way because they're amongst the few gifted with a true vision in a world cursed with blindness. She calls the meat on their bones a curse, a weakness, a crippling flaw as a joke played by the creators upon their own creations. They see being turned into the undead as a great honor, but some speculate that she's talking about more. The old gods cursed some of the Titan creations with the curse of flesh, which made them weaker, it literally gave them flesh, and it made them more vulnerable for their corruption. Some speculate that the old god Yogg-Saron had a lot more to do with the events of the Lich King, considering that one of his visions, as you enter his mind, is of the Lich King torturing Bolvar, Serenite is Yogg-Saron's blood, which was used to build up the Citadel, and this speech all seems to connect to Yogg-Saron with the Lich King. It's never really been confirmed though, so speculation is all we have.
All part of the Master's plan! Your end is inevitable!
The Icecrown Gunship battle is a little bit strange story-wise, but it made for a pretty damn cool fight. Both the Horde and the Alliance, they're assaulting Icecrown Citadel at the same time, and tension between the two factions are high, since both factions lost a whole bunch of people at the Wrathgate. Both factions want to desperately reach the perfect vantage point, take down Arthas and save Bolvar to bring peace. So they want it so bad that they decided to blow each other out of the sky just to get the glory.
That sums up humanity in a nutshell.
Don't say I didn't warn you, scoundrels! Onward, brothers and sisters!
The Alliance falter! Onward to the Lich King! You dare board my ship? Your death will come swiftly!
After the gunship battle, we meet another victim of the Wrathgate, Deathbringer Saurfang. This is High Overlord Saurfang's son, who lost his soul to Frostmourne and has been turned to a Death Knight by the Lich King.
My boy died at the Wrathgate. I am here only to collect his body.
Stubborn and old, what chance do you have? I am stronger and more powerful than you ever were.
We named him Dranosh. It means Heart of Draenor in Orcish.
Both sides defeat the Orc, where on the Horde side, Saurfang collects his son, but on the Alliance side, you see a bit more conversation.
Soldiers, fall in! Looks like the Horde are coming to take another shot!
Don't force me hand, Orc. We can't let you pass.
Behind you lies the body of my only son. Nothing will keep me from him.
I can't do it. Get back on your ship and we'll spare your life.
Stand down, Muradin. Let a grieving father pass.
No Ko kills Ilnok, Atar. I will not forget this kindness. I thank you, Highness.
I was not at the Wrathgate, but the soldiers who survived told me much of what happened. Your son fought with honor. He died a hero's death. He deserves a hero's burial.
Respect is shown, and Saurfang takes his boy home. Rotface and Vestagut, they don't really have a story besides being created by Professor Putricide, who they see as their father, and they love their pets very much.
Good news, everyone!
Professor Putricide has perfected a plague which will eradicate all life on Azeroth, and he's probably responsible for most of the abominations and creations that we've seen in the Scourge army.
If you're a fan of Futurama, good news everyone.
Bad news, everyone. I don't think I'm going to make it.
Foolish mortals. You thought us defeated so easily. The Sand Lane are the Lich King's immortal soldiers. Now, you shall face their might combined.
The Blood Prince Council consists of 3 Darkfallen princes, which we encountered and defeated before. Darkfallen are vampiric undead blood elves resurrected by Arthas after they defeated during Warcraft 3. Prince Kel'thuzad, he was the first boss of Utgard Keep and the Scourge Overlord of the Howling Fjord. Prince Valanar, he was the Scourge Overlord of the Borean Tundra and taken out with the help of Visarion. Prince Tel'Daram, he was the second boss of Ahn'kahet, where he was searching for lost Nerubian relics to empower the Scourge's murderous ranks and please the Lich King. With the Darkfallen Orb empowering them, they tried to stop our assault, but they failed, and the next encounter was against their Blood Queen Lanafel.
You have made an unwise decision.
Not all the Blood Elves that were turned into Darkfallen, they died while fighting together with their Prince Kil'fa Sunstrider. Some of them survived a little bit longer in Northrend, they were left behind by their prince, and one by one, Arthas picked them off, converting them into his dark army. Lanafel was one of those survivors, and with the legendary blade Quel'Dalar, she tried to hold her ground, but the might of Frostmourne, it was simply too great. She lost her life, and Arthas decided to not only turn her into the undead, he also made her the Blood Queen of all the Darkfallen. Lanafel eagerly carried out her new duties given to her by the Lich King, but the blade, it reminded her of her former life as she could not afford such distractions. With a scream that echoed throughout Icecrown, she shattered Quel'Dalar and she flung the fractured pieces as far as she could. Heroes would later find the battered hilt of the weapon and restore the legendary blade, while Lanafel found her demise within Icecrown.
But we were all getting along. So,
Valeria Dreamwalker is one of those bosses that just seems very random, since all we know is that she's a captured green dragon, and they tried to destroy her so that they could resurrect her into an agent of the Scourge. By resurrecting her health, we gave her enough power to shatter her bonds, she liberated herself, and then she simply disappeared into thin air.
This is one of those bosses that you win by healing instead of dealing damage. It was interesting if you didn't have good healers.
I am renewed! Isera grant me the favor to lay these foul creatures to rest!
Finally, there's Sindragosa, a blue dragon in life. She was the prime consort of the blue dragon aspect Malygos.
You are fools who have come to this place! The icy winds of Northrend will consume your souls!
During the War of the Ancients, they created a device known as the Dragon Soul, later to be known as the Demon Soul, which was planned to be used against the invading Legion. What they didn't know was that Deathwing, he was corrupted by the Old Gods, and he didn't just use the device against the Legion, he also used it against the Night Elf forces and his fellow dragons. With its power, he nearly wiped out the entire Blue Dragonflight, including Sindragosa. The blast of the spell hurled her all the way to the cold north. Blinded and near death, Sindragosa sought desperately to reach the Dragonblight, the place where dragons go to die. No longer able to fly, Sindragosa plummeted to the cold earth in the region of Icecrown. The blue dragon gathered what remained of her energy and called out to Malygos for aid. Her only answer was the howling Arctic wind as she struggled on, but the distance was far too great. Agonizingly, she realized that her spirit would not find rest within Dragonblight. Her life continued to fade away as her sanity deteriorated. In the midst of her delirium, Sindragosa's final thoughts turned to bitterness and hatred. Hatred against the Legion, hatred against Neltharion, hatred even against Malygos. But most of all, hatred against the world of mortals. And in her dying moments, Sindragosa vowed revenge. Now many years later, Arthas used Frostmourne to resurrect the mighty blue dragon, and she was forced to fight for the Lich King. The whole revenge bit never made it into the overall storyline, since she seems pretty happy that we take her out and liberate her from the Lich King's control. Very similar to Anubarak, for example.
Can you feel the cold hand of death upon your heart?
Now with all of his creations, all of his powerful minions defeated, it was finally time to join Tirion Fordring upon the top of Icecrown and finally face the Lich King himself.
So, the light's vaunted justice has finally arrived. Shall I lay down Frostmourne and throw myself at your mercy?
We'll grant you a swift death, Arthas. More than can be said for the thousands you've tortured and slain.
You'll learn of that firsthand. When my work is complete, you will beg for mercy, and I will deny you. Your anguished cries will be testament to my unbridled power.
So be it. Champions, attack!
I'll keep you alive to witness the end, Fordring. I would not want the Light's greatest champion to miss seeing this wretched world remade in my image.
And so begins one of the hardest boss fights in World of Warcraft and one of the most anticipated ones since Warcraft 3. So, big stuff for everyone.
Tyrion is placed within a block of ice, and heroes have to deal with the Lich King themselves. There seems to be a glimmer of hope on the horizon though, as his health slowly drops, but then the Lich King, he unleashes the fury of Frostmourne, taking out all the heroes gathered.
No questions remain unanswered. No doubts linger. You are Azeroth's greatest champions. You overcame every challenge I laid before you. My mightiest servants have fallen before your relentless onslaught.
He's not dead because he's over-leveled, but when you were playing it when it was current content, your entire raid party would get killed. So that's when the fight ends. You just get one-shotted.
Your unbridled fury. Is it truly righteousness that drives you? I wonder. You trained them well, Fordring. You delivered the greatest fighting force this world has ever known. Right into my hands, exactly as I intended. You shall be rewarded for your unwitting sacrifice. Watch now, as I raise them from the dead to become masters of the Scourge. They will shroud this world in chaos and destruction. Azeroth's fall will come at their hands, and you will be the first to die.
Throughout the entire expansion, the Lich King has watched us, pitched us against the mightiest of foes, making sure that when the time was right, he would have the mightiest heroes the world had to offer, ready to be converted into his ranks. He might have won that day, might have recruited the most powerful heroes into his army, was it not for Tyrion and the Light's blessing.
Light, grant me one final blessing. Give me the strength to shatter these bonds. No more lives will be consumed by your hatred!
Free, at last. It is over, my son. This is the moment of reckoning. Rise up, champions of the light!
With one single strike, the Ashbringer shatters Frostmourne and 1,000 vengeful souls are released, holding the Lich King high in the air. King Tyrannus resurrects the fallen heroes, and together they end the nightmare. Together they defeat the Lich King.
Now I stand, the lion before the lambs, and they do not fear. They cannot fear.
Father, is it over?
At long last. No king rules forever, my son.
I see. Only darkness before me.
Without its master's command, the restless scourge will become an even greater threat to this world. Control must be maintained. There must always be a Lich King.
The weight of such a burden. It must be mine, for there is no other.
Tyrion! You hold a grim destiny in your hands, brother. But it is not your own.
Bolvar! By all that is holy.
The dragon's flame sealed my fate. The world of the living can no longer comfort me. Place the crown upon my head, Tyrion. Forevermore, I will be the jailer of the damned.
No, old friend. I cannot.
Do it, Tyrion! You and these brave heroes have your own destinies to fulfill. This last act of service is mine. I must be forgotten, Tyrion. If the world is to live free from the tyranny of fear, they must never know what was done here today. Dead, and that Bolvar Dragon died with him. Now go, leave this place, and never return.
And there ends the story of the Lich King. However, his actions still echo throughout the storyline to this day, and his legacy will not soon be forgotten. When you defeat the Lich King while holding Shadowmourne, you'll get a sealed chest, which High Lord Darian Mograine will open up for you, and inside there are some special items which you can turn in with the respective owners. These are the conversations that wrap up minor bits and pieces between Arthas and characters that were very important in the storyline, and a big thank you to Hey Shaman for letting me use his recordings.
Arthas. Alas, hero of Azeroth, you give me a greater gift than you know. Long have I struggled to forgive the prince for his terrible transgressions. My soul has been racked with unbearable anxiety, dark thoughts, distancing me from the light. I recall clearly the gleam of pride in his eye as he stood before me, eager to defeat the enemies of the light. Eager to defend his people, no matter the cost. It is this memory of Arthas that I choose to keep in my heart. I shall always be in your debt, friend.
Uther's soul finds rest, and he decides to remember the good side of Arthas.
Oh, lad.
How I miss those endless days in Lordaeron. Sharpening your skill with this dull blade. Forging you into a weapon meant to withstand the demands of a great destiny. Heh. You sure put them skills to use, didn't you, lad? If only I'd been able to stop you that day. How different things might have been. If only I'd have never discovered that accursed blade. Farewell, Arthas. My brother.
Muradin wonders how things could have been different, and he decides to remember Arthas as his brother.
Father. Darian, my son. At last, I am able to lay my eyes upon you again.
Father, I feared for your sanity.
The Lich King tormented me without end, Darian. Endlessly, he sought to break my will, to force me to serve him, to bind me to his blade. Finally, when events demanded his full attention, he left me. The one memory I clung to, Darian, the one thought that kept me from giving in, it was your sacrifice, my son, that again saved me from eternal peril.
Father, for you, I would give my life 1,000 times.
Alexandros Mograin's soul finally finds peace, and Darian, he would later show up in Draenor, searching for some way to liberate Bolvar out of his fate as jailer of the damned.
What's this? He kept it. All this time, he kept it. I knew. I sensed a part of him still alive, trapped, struggling. Oh, Arthas. Perhaps he might someday remember what he once was. By the light, may he at last find rest, free from the icy grip of that terrible blade.
Arthas kept a reminder of his love for Jaina, something she always knew deep down in her heart. She hopes that his spirit will find rest free from that accursed blade, but unfortunately, that's not what the future holds for Arthas.
So, it is done. I had not dared to trust my senses. Too many times has the Lich King made me to be a fool. Finally, he has been made to pay for the atrocities he imposed upon my people. May Azeroth never fail to remember the horrible price we paid for our weakness, for our pride. But what now, hero? What of those freed from his grasp, but still shackled to their mortal coils? Leave me. I have much to ponder.
Sylvanas would later travel back to the top of Icecrown, where she found out that Bolvar is the new Lich King, yet her purpose, her whole mission, was complete. She got the revenge that she desired, so she tossed herself off the top of Icecrown in an attempt to end her undead suffering. Instead of ending it though, she found herself in a whole new realm of suffering, a hell where the spirit of Arthas was being tormented as well. This would be her fate, but luckily for the Banshee Queen, the Valkyr, they came down and they offered her a deal. They would ally themselves with Sylvanas, they would take her place in hell in case she died, and they would resurrect more Forsaken troops to bolster their ranks. In exchange, they would be free from Bolvar's control, and knowing the hell and the torment that waits for her, Sylvanas agreed.
With the death of the Lich King, many of the more intelligent Scourge became unemployed. Those fiends, as you so delicately put it, are called Valkyr. They are under my command now. And they are part of the reason that I asked to see you.
Get on with it, Sylvanas!
Very well, War Chief. I have solved the plight of the Forsaken. As a race, we Forsaken are unable to procreate. With the aid of the Valkyr, we are now able to take the corpses of the fallen and create new Forsaken. Agatha, show the war chief.
What you have done here, Sylvanas, it goes against the laws of nature. Disgusting is the only word I have to describe it.
War chief, without these new Forsaken, my people would die out. Our hold upon Gilneas and Northern Lordaeron would crumble.
Have you given any thought to what this means, Sylvanas? What difference is there between you and the Lich King now?
Isn't it obvious, War Chief? I serve the Horde.
Watch your clever mouth, bitch!
The Lich King story ripples on throughout Warcraft, even to this day, but for now, the story has come to an end. Thank you all so very much for watching and joining me on this incredible journey. This has been the biggest project that I've ever done, the biggest story I've ever told, and I hope I did it justice. As always, ladies and gentlemen, subscribe if you like my videos, leave a like if you enjoyed this one, and until next time guys, see ya!
They removed the word bitch. Yeah, they did that a couple of weeks ago because it's been there for so long and apparently now it's offending people. So now we know the story of the Lich King. Next up, an interesting story that ties into what's happening to Shadowlands would be the story of Sylvanas. We know chunks of her story, particularly from Warcraft 3. We know bits and pieces of Wrath of the Lich King, but you sort of have to understand what she's been up to since Wrath of the Lich King leading up to Shadowlands for you to get the full picture of what's going on. And personally, she's one of my favorite characters since Warcraft 3 because I think she's very well developed. She comes from a very good beginning and she has excellent character development, and her story arc is one of the more interesting ones. On top of that, she's part of the current story, so she's literally been there from Warcraft 3 up until today. And she's probably going to be one of the ending bosses of the upcoming expansion. On top of that, the cinematics and cutscenes with her are absolutely amazing. So I think that's probably going to be the next character's story arc we're going to follow because it's going to tie so heavily into the upcoming expansion. That being said, there is a buffet of interesting characters, Garrosh being one of them, who you just saw as a new war chief after Wrath of the Lich King. Thrall basically makes him war chief. That is a story on its own that leads up to Warlords of Draenor. I don't think we're going to touch on that one just because it doesn't tie into the new expansion directly. But again, it's an entire story arc for another character spanning 2 expansions, which is unbelievably interesting with great story, great character development, amazing music soundtracks, and bloody awesome cutscenes. And that's the beautiful thing about World of Warcraft. It has such a rich story and history that there's so many amazing arcs. And this is just some of the main characters that are on the front line that everyone knows about. And there's dozens of characters in the back that are kind of secondary characters that sometimes end up coming up to the front line and taking center stage. But there's so many good story arcs that you could, and I honestly have, spent months just watching and binging these types of videos, watching these character and story arcs that I never knew existed while I was playing World of Warcraft and leveling in alt. So that is the beautiful thing of this world. It's so vast. But like I always say, everyone has a type of character they typically click to, and then through exploring their story arc, you get exposed to all these other characters, which is a great way to do it. That's how I did. I was interested in the Lich King, I was interested in Sylvanas' story arc, and that got me exposed to the whole thing, and next thing you know, you're a WoW addict. So, that's the thing. That was good. That is an amazing way to wrap up the week. For me, this is Friday night, so for me, this is just like, that just this is how I wrap up my work week. It's just like, I'm so refreshed right now. I'm so chilled right now. It feels like the weekend. I'm just like, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. Have you seen Garrosh Did Nothing Wrong? I did. I used to watch meme videos and machinima videos all the time. I watched the trial of Garrosh, which was a parody, Garrosh on Trial. Garrosh did nothing wrong. I didn't read, but I watched a lot of videos on War Crimes, which is the novel talking about the story of how Garrosh was put on trial for what he did in the expansions, of course, War Crimes, and how that led up to the Warlords of Draenor, which again was an amazing expansion. It's a bit sad that they didn't fully develop it. It was cut short, but again, great story arc, great character, an amazing point of discussion. The only reason... he's one of the characters that I would love to touch on and explore, and the only reason we're not doing that straight away is because it doesn't directly tie into the expansion that's coming up, and is like less than a month before it comes out. So that's the only reason why we're not touching on it. Not because he's not a great character, not because those aren't amazing expansions, just because it doesn't directly tie into the story. Chances are he's going to be there in the expansion, in one of the covenants. Chances are he will be there. But just leading up to the story, it's kind of important to lay down the foundation of, okay, what is the Lich King? What is the afterlife? How does this life or death thing work? Alright, cool. So who's Sylvanas? What's she up to? And how do we get into Shadowlands? And I think that's going to be a great way to get sort of up to speed to understand what's going on. And again, great story, great music. We'll see what Garrosh does. It's going to be interesting to hear his point of view. And thanks, Kuma, for giving me WoW to listen to. Oh, you're more than welcome. You're more than welcome. And again, I am going to edit this out. We have the previous video, which is part 1, edited out on YouTube. I'm going to edit out this video and post it up within the next few days. And I'm going to do the same thing with part 3. And I just absolutely love watching videos whenever I'm playing games on the side. I did it a bit last night when I was chilling while exporting videos. I was playing some WoW Classic, grinding some dungeons, and watching some Netflix. Like, bread and butter, man. I used to do that in high school. In high school, I used to watch dubbed anime while playing World of Warcraft. That was my thing. I didn't even have a big screen. I had I think it was like a 15, 16-inch screen, and I would have World of Warcraft literally be this big, and then the video file would be like this little tiny 480p video. You remember the old days when the video files were 700 megabytes for a 2-hour movie? That's how we used to do it. So, I mean, man, that is the shit. He was in the preview for Shadowlands? Oh. I didn't see. I didn't notice him. I'm looking forward to him. No, I'm looking forward to Shadowlands. After Battle for Azeroth, I was kind of on a break with World of Warcraft, and I'm so glad that they're going back to the story, because I'm playing World of Warcraft now for the story. That's what I'm invested in. I mean, I like playing PvP, I like doing dungeons, but honestly, long term, the story is what keeps bringing me back. The characters, that's what it's all about. Every time there's a new patch or a new dungeon, that's what brings me back, the story. I like raiding, I enjoy it, but that's not what brings me back. It's the story, and it's one of the best. It's one of the best, and it's still going, and I'm really glad for that. And I'm really glad, like we saw the Afterlife cinematic. They still know how to make an impactful cinematic. They've still got it, and the books, they've still got it. So that's what I love about it. Blizzard makes a few decisions that I sort of question time to time, and I kind of go, what the F is going on? But a lot of the story in Warcraft is still good. So that's what keeps me coming back, and I'm really curious to see what happens in Shadowlands. So, looking forward to it. Thanks for coming, guys. I hope you had a blast. I did. I know for a lot of you, it's really early in the morning, so I appreciate you guys staying up. Over here, it's evening on Friday, so it's easy for the Aussies, but I know it's a bit hard for you guys. Went out of my way to buy Shadows Rising after work yesterday. Gotta read it after I get back tomorrow. I'm sort of thinking whether or not I should read it. I probably should, but I'm just so constrained for time that I might just grab an audiobook if there is one and just listen to it while I'm driving the car or something. That's audiobooks are life hacks. They're just amazing. But I hope you enjoy it, and let me know how it is. Just send me a message on Discord. I'm there during the week. There's a thread for World of Warcraft. Just, post how it is and what you think and if it's worthwhile reading. I'm really curious. I actually like more of your early, for me at least, streams than the others. More interaction, too crowded at night. Well, fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. It's nice sometimes to have a party with a lot of people because you can do fun things like voting and seeing what people think. Whereas having sort of intimate sessions like this one, you get a much deeper, richer discussion with fewer people. And it's great. And I love reading the comments as well in the videos. A lot of people add to the conversation, and I sometimes mention the comments from previous videos in this video, and I sort of touch on those topics. So it's really nice. And videos like this definitely help with that. Definitely help. A lot of discussion, which is what I love. I absolutely love it. It's really good. Game's great, but the discussion's even better. Alright guys, I'm not going to keep you up much longer. We do have another live stream in 11 hours being Persona 5 Royale, so I hope to see some of you there. I'm going to wrap up for the evening, have some dinner, chill out with Hutchon, and I'll see you all tomorrow. If I don't see you there, hopefully I see you Sunday with Hive Swap and Homestuck reactions. If I don't see you then, I hope to see you on Monday with Ghost of Tsushima. If I don't see you there, I hope to see you on the Discord. So I hope to see you somewhere. And of course, without fail, Nightbot spams the Discord link. Perfect timing. So click it if you're not a member of the Discord. If you're watching the YouTube video, I hope you enjoyed it. Hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed and watch the next one. Thanks for coming, guys. I hope you had a blast. I had a great time. Till next time, Ninja Kuma out. Bye.